You need to see this right now. As I record this, the digital ink is being scrubbed from the servers at the State Department and the Pentagon. What I am about to tell you is the single most significant geopolitical shift in the last 50 years, and the mainstream media is bearing it under a mountain of celebrity gossip and partisan bickering. The world changed in the last hour, and if you aren't paying attention, you are going to wake up in a country you don't recognize. The truth is harsher, colder, and more dangerous than anything you will ever hear on the evening news. I've spent my life in the shadows of military intelligence. I've walked the halls where the real decisions are made. I've analyzed theater level conflicts from the deserts of Iraq to the bunkers of Eastern Europe, and I am telling you, the data I am seeing from my sources on the ground right now indicates a total collapse of Western hegemony in Eurasia. Right now, as we speak, five nations, major players on the world stage, are effectively on their knees, begging Iran to finalize a pact that moves their center of gravity directly into Pakistan. And Iran has not said yes to one of them. They are holding the cards. They are the ones dictating the terms while our leaders in Washington play checkers in a room where the floor is already on fire. Stay with me, because the most shocking part of this, the actual smoking gun that the Pentagon is hiding regarding our own naval presence in the region, is coming in just a moment. You need to understand the reality on the ground, not the sanitized version the elites want you to swallow. Imagine the scene right now in the Balochistan province. The air is thick with the smell of cordite and diesel exhaust. Orange skies hang over the construction sites of the IP pipeline, the Iran-Pakistan gas link that the US has tried to kill for 20 years. There are streaks of light in the night sky over the Gulf of Oman, and they aren't stars. They are Mach 7 hypersonic signatures from Iranian test fires, signals being picked up by our Aegis systems that are currently being saturated to the point of failure. I've seen the telemetry. Our SM-3 interceptors, costing millions of dollars a pop, are being fired at drones that cost less than a used Honda. The math doesn't work. The theater is shifting, and the experts in DC are in a state of absolute panic because their rules-based order just hit a brick wall. In my time in military intelligence, we tracked the pivot to Asia, but what we are seeing now is the pivot to reality. China, Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, those are the five. They are pleading with Tehran to anchor the new Silk Road through the heart of Pakistan, bypassing the sea lanes we control. Why? Because they know the US Navy can no longer guarantee the safety of the straits. Having analyzed theater-level conflicts for decades, I can tell you that when a nation like Saudi Arabia, a longtime US ally, starts begging Iran to move into a neighboring nuclear power's territory to secure energy corridors, the American century is over. But let's look at the tactical reality. I want you to feel the tension in the GHQ in Rawalpindi, flickering communication lines, the hum of heavy cooling fans, and the grim faces of Pakistani generals who realize the Americans have nothing left to offer them but sanctions and empty promises. And they are looking at the Iranian Fateh 110 missiles and the Shahed 136 swarms, and they see a shield, not a threat. The technical specificity of this shift is staggering. We are talking about Wave 55 of Operation True Promise style logistics being integrated into the Pakistani border defense. This isn't just about gas, it's about a unified front that stretches from the Levant to the Indus River. I will reveal the specific document, the secret memorandum that explains why the Pentagon is terrified of this Iranian-Pakistani handshake by the end of this briefing. But first, you have to understand the economic carnage this is going to unleash on your doorstep. For decades, the petrodollar was the bedrock of your bank account. It's the reason you can buy cheap goods and put gas in your car. But as Iran holds these five countries in suspense, they are negotiating in petro-yuan and local currencies. Every hour that Iran refuses to say yes is an hour they use to drive the price of compliance higher. When this deal closes, and it will, you're looking at $15 gas at the pump. I'm not being hyperbolic. I've seen the projected supply chain disruptions. Your 401k is tied to a dollar that is being systematically decoupled from the world's most vital energy veins. The stakes are rising. We've moved past a tactical strike scenario. We are now in a regional war footprint that is rapidly escalating toward a global economic collapse. The elites in Davos and Washington think they can manage this with targeted sanctions. They are delusional. Having analyzed the logistics of the IRGC's forward defense doctrine, I can tell you they have already prepared for the total blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. If Iran says yes to these five countries and moves into Pakistan with full military and economic integration, the U.S. Fifth Fleet becomes a collection of floating targets. The Aegis system saturation I mentioned earlier isn't a theory, it's a mathematical certainty. When you have 500 incoming signatures and only 60 interceptors in a launch array, you lose the ship. It's that simple. I feel a profound sense of grief for the young men and women we have stationed in these outposts. They are being used as tripwires for a policy that has already failed. My heart breaks for the families who think their sons are defending freedom when they are actually being used as human shields for a dying currency. I've walked those decks. I've seen the eyes of those sailors. They know something is wrong. They see the ghost fleet of Iranian tankers moving millions of barrels of oil right under their noses, and they are ordered to stand down because the Pentagon knows that one wrong move triggers the unthinkable scenario. And what is that scenario? It's the move to the nuclear threshold. Pakistan is a nuclear-armed state. Iran is a threshold state. When you merge the two into a single economic and security bloc backed by the industrial might of China and the raw resources of Russia, you have created an indestructible Eurasian fortress. The smoking gun I promised you is a classified assessment from the Joint Chiefs that acknowledges the U.S. can no longer win a conventional conflict in this theater. They are hiding this from you because if the American public knew how truly vulnerable we are, there would be a revolt tomorrow. Stay with me because I'm going to break down the specific weapon systems being moved into the Gwadar port right now. We are talking about S-400 batteries and Chinese-made YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missiles. These are carrier killers. These are the reasons your mainstream news is talking about literally anything else. They don't want you to know that the $13 billion USS Gerald R. Ford is effectively a museum piece in the face of this new reality. Think about the psychological state of the decision makers in the Pentagon. I know these people. I've briefed them. They are currently operating in a feedback loop of arrogance and fear. They believe they can still bully Tehran into submission. But Iran isn't playing the game we think they are. They are waiting. They are letting these five countries, Russia, China, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar, stew in their own anxiety. Iran knows that the longer they wait, the more desperate the West becomes and the more the petrodollar erodes. Let's talk about your bank account again because this is where the reality on the ground hits home. If Iran moves into Pakistan and solidifies this bloc, the global insurance rates for shipping will triple overnight. That made-in-China product you bought on Amazon, it just became 4 times more expensive. The grain from Russia, it's being diverted to the east. We are looking at a hyperinflationary event that will make the 1970s look like the good old days. The elites don't care. They have their assets in gold and land. But you are the one who will be left holding the bag of a devalued currency. I'm seeing reports of unidentified flights between Tehran and Rawalpindi that match the signatures of heavy transport aircraft carrying sensitive electronic warfare suites. My sources tell me these suites are designed specifically to blind our satellites over the Indian Ocean. The sensory detail of this is terrifying. Technicians in darkened rooms in Maryland watching their screens go to static while billions of dollars in hardware becomes useless junk in orbit. The smell of ozone in those command centers, the frantic shouting of officers who realize they've been outplayed. This is the reality of the new world that is being born right now. Why hasn't Iran said yes yet? Because they are waiting for the final collapse of the U.S. diplomatic leverage in Islamabad. They want the Americans to be kicked out of their bases first. They want a clean break. They are watching the Biden administration stumble from one crisis to the next, waiting for the exact moment when the U.S. is too distracted by internal strife or a secondary conflict to respond. In my time in military intelligence, we called this strategic patience. It's a concept Washington has completely forgotten. The five countries are begging because they are starving for stability. China needs the energy security. Russia needs the southern strategic depth to bypass the European theater. Turkey wants to be the bridge to the New World. Saudi Arabia wants protection from the very monster it helped create. And Pakistan? Pakistan is just trying to keep the lights on and the radical elements at bay. They are all looking to Tehran as the new regional power broker. This is a total inversion of everything we were taught in the 20th century. As we get closer to the revelation of the smoking gun, I want you to consider the patriotic anger I feel. I serve this country. I believe in the American people. But I do not believe in the liars and the warmongers who have led us to this precipice. They have hollowed out our military, depleted our strategic reserves, and alienated our few remaining friends. They are hiding the truth because the truth is an indictment of their entire existence. Let's look at the technical specifications of the Wave 55 drones I mentioned. These are not the hobbyist toys you see on YouTube. These are sophisticated AI-linked swarming munitions that use mesh networking to bypass traditional jamming. When they are deployed over the narrow corridors of the Arabian Sea, they create a kinetic wall that no surface fleet can penetrate. Having analyzed these systems, I can tell you that the Pentagon has no current countermeasure that is cost-effective. We are spending $1 million to stop a $10,000 threat. That is how you lose a war of attrition. The history of these weapons is a history of Western neglect. We assumed we would always have the technological edge. We were wrong. The Iranians have spent 30 years perfecting asymmetric warfare while we were busy building expensive toys for wars that will never happen. The IRGC's psychological state is one of extreme confidence. They aren't afraid of us anymore, and that is the most dangerous thing in the world, a regional power that has lost its fear of the superpower. Now, I promised you the smoking gun. Here it is. My sources have confirmed the existence of a back-channel communication between the Iranian leadership and the Pakistani GHQ. In this communication, Iran has laid out a red line for the 5 countries begging for their presence. That red line is the total expulsion of all U.S. intelligence assets from the region. Iran isn't just saying no to the deal right now. They are waiting for the 5 countries to do the dirty work of dismantling the American presence for them. They are forcing Russia and China to use their leverage to push the U.S. out of South Asia once and for all. This is the unthinkable scenario. If we are pushed out of Pakistan and Iran moves in, we lose our eyes and ears on the entire Eurasian landmass. We become a fortress America isolated by 2 oceans while the rest of the world trades, prospers, and builds a future without us. The elites want you to think this is about democracy or human rights. It's not. It's about who controls the switch to the world's energy and who dictates the value of the currency you use to feed your family. You need to prepare. You need to understand that the normal you grew up with is gone. The flickering communication lines, the sirens, the orange skies, these aren't just metaphors. They are the future for anyone caught in the crossfire of this transition. I am telling you this not to scare you, but to arm you with the truth. The mainstream media will continue to tell you that everything is under control, that the adults are in the room. They are lying. The data doesn't lie. The Mach 7 signatures don't lie. The $15 gas projections don't lie. Stay vigilant, stay informed. The reality on the ground is shifting as I speak. Iran is waiting, the 5 countries are pleading, and the American empire is facing a checkmate it never saw coming. I will continue to bring you the data, the intelligence, and the insider truth that they are trying so hard to scrub, because in a world of lies, the truth is the only weapon we have left. The world is changing, and it's changing in ways that will be felt in every household in America. Don't be the one caught sleeping when the lights go out. Listen to the sirens, watch the streaks of light, and remember, they didn't want you to see this, but now you have, and you can't unsee the truth.